Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Dawn. Today I have a little bonus video for the Kit Create collab to talk about some ideas on how to use this pattern paper, tissue paper from Sewing Patterns. So Sewing Patterns come with the pattern on the tissue paper, and if you're using it for a journal or any kind of like journaling project, you'll end up realizing that there's just an insane amount of tissue paper. So if you don't have a sewing pattern with a bunch of tissue paper, all these ideas will work for any kind of tissue paper, any patterned or plain tissue paper. I know, like around holidays, and if you like look in the right spots in stores, you can find patterned tissue paper for like different holidays. I'm sure there's like floral and spring and stuff. And you can also use the top layers of napkins. Those are about the same as tissue paper. So all the ideas in this video I'll be talking about and using the sewing pattern tissue paper, but you can use any kind of tissue paper or napkin. So I have at least 10 ideas here that I'm going to go through one at a time and show off and talk about. And I've done an example of each, and then the ones that are like not quite obvious, I'll do on camera. So the first one I have is just using a piece of tissue paper as a journal page. For this journal, which isn't bound yet, I have just a piece of paper as a page. That's it. And then as you're going through your journal, you have this to kind of break up some of your more plain pages. It has this nice sound, this nice feel. And if you're using a journal and you find like a singular page and you're like, I don't like that, it's too thin or whatever, you can leave it sort of, because if you have something under it, it will show through, and that I think looks really cool. Or you could always like glue it down to the page on either side of it if you wanted, if you didn't like that as a page. So I like to include them. Sometimes I'll double up the pattern paper when I'm putting it in the journal, so I'll just take a big piece. This isn't really that big, but I'll take a big piece and fold it in half and then put it in the journal as a page like that. And I like that as well, doubled up. So it kind of just depends on what sort of pieces I'm working with. So that's idea number one, is just a really, really simple full-size page in your journal. Idea number two is a page edge ruffle. So here I've made one, and I'll show you what I did without the sewing machine. You can do it without the sewing machine. I just liked to add the detail of the sewing. So here I have some scraps that are pretty small and scrappy and not the greatest for using in, like, I don't know, I just didn't like it was broken up. There's so many different pieces going on here, and this is a cardstock scrapbook paper. So if you look, I just took a strip and I just ruffled it up, and I actually used glue, but then I just ran it through the sewing machine just once to, you know, it's a sewing themed journal, so I just like to use the sewing machine, but I'll show you, you don't have to. So I'm going to take the side that I like the least of this paper. Then I have this big piece here. Now I know how this is folded, and I know that if I cut down the edge, I'll get a pretty big piece. You could also piece smaller pieces together, but I'm just going to take a snip of this that's about the same width as my strip. And then when I open it, I have a few long pieces of the tissue paper. So I'm just going to pick one, and then all I'm going to do is grab my glue stick and run it down the center. Then I'm going to take the top part and put this here. Now I think it's really funny that that says pleat on it, because that's kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to actually leave that one part visible, but you don't have to. You don't want it to stick down until you're at that spot, but you're just gonna crumple and fold just like you're making an accordion fold, but down onto your paper. And you can make the accordion folds as big as you want or as small as you want, or you can make them crumplier or less crumply. And then sometimes when I get down here, the glue's dry already because I'm talking, so I'll just add a little bit more so it sticks. So you can make big ruffles, you can make big folds, little folds, you can make more crumpled folds, whatever you like. You just kind of go with it and see what you like as you go. And then it's a little bit long, but here's my ruffle, and then I'm just going to trim off that bit at the end, trim off this bit at the top. That's that. So there's my ruffle. And if I were to run it through the sewing machine, I would just, you could do anything, but I would just run a strip down. Now you could also take this, and I have some like fabric scraps from my kit, and you could also add like a little extra accent to it, maybe with a fabric scrap. So this is what it would look like, and I'm going to run that through the machine and show you what it looks like with the fabric on it. Okay, now again, you don't have to sew it, you can just glue it, but here's what it looks like with the sewing detail and just a little piece of extra fabric that I have. So then if I was to use this on a page, I would just grab a journal, open up my journal to a random page here, and I would glue that to the edge, and you could have it stick out, you could have it line up. If you look back here, you can see it sticks out past the little paper on this one, but this one's actually lined up. So you would just use this as a page edge decoration, and if you wanted it to stick out, you could glue it off the edge a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. If you wanted to stick out, you could glue it off the edge a little bit. You could line it up so you only see it on one side. And there's your little page edge decoration. And I will be using these. I'll be adding these to my journal. Well, one of my 3 journals. But probably not this one, because this one does have this closure, so I have to be able to close it. So that is idea number 2, is edge ruffles. You can also do smaller ruffles, or you could, instead of putting them on this, you could put them directly onto the page. But this is, you can kind of make a bunch at the same time and then add them to your pages after. So that was idea 2. I'm gonna have to find somewhere to set these down when I'm done with my ideas. Okay, number 3 is little paper ruffle butterflies. This is my little butterfly. It's not really, I guess, a bow or a butterfly, whatever kind of you want to call it. And these are super easy. You just grab kind of a bigger piece, or even a couple of pieces, but that are like more rectangular. So you could even take a couple pieces. I'm going to try to do it with one piece and then show you sort of some variations. Okay, so I have this, and I'm just going to fold it in half so I have a nice thick piece. And then you just do an accordion fold. Just not too wide of an accordion fold. If you go really wide on your folds, it can be hard to get the staple on, or whatever you're using. I'm using staples because it's easy. And these are supposed to just be quick, easy ideas. Okay, so now I have this accordion. It's flat like that, like this. It makes a butterfly kind of if you go like this, but what you want to do is just squeeze and flatten the center a little bit, which is why you don't want your accordion to be too wide. So you want to just kind of flatten your center and make it like this. And then I'm just taking my stapler and putting a staple through it. And then I ruffle it out on the edges, spread it out a bit. And you have a little butterfly. And that's it. So there's a couple of little butterflies. And these you could glue on like a button or a piece of lace here or something, like a little piece of lace, just a small piece of lace. It would look really cute on there, and then you could glue it to the page. You could glue it on top of something. But yeah, these are just little edge decorations. Page decorations. You could even stick them out so that when they're on the page, they act like a tab. That would be adorable too. So yeah, just little butterflies. Not complicated, but a good way to use up a bunch of scraps. The next idea I have is a flower. Now, these you can ruffle up and have them be like more 3D if you wanted, like just like this. But because I'm going to put it on a page like a cluster, mine will end up getting flattened when the page closes anyway. So what I did for this one is I took a piece of pattern paper and I just folded it over onto itself. And then I suppose I could do it even easier. And okay, I'm going to do it an even easier way than the first way. So I have this big strip folded in half. Then I folded it in quarters. It's almost a square. I'm going to fold corner to corner and corner to corner and make a triangle. And then I'm going to go like this and cut like almost like a heart, but not cut the edges. And then when I open it, I have, some of them are still connected, but that's okay. I'm just going to separate them. I have all these flower shaped pieces. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the ones that are more plain, and I'm just going to put them at the bottom, and I'm just going to alternate. And I think what I'm going to do is turn this into 2 flowers with 4 petals each. So we're just alternating and mixing them up a little bit. And then I'm putting the pieces with the writing, the most writing on top, because I like that. Okay, and then in my kit, I have a couple more buttons. I have these 2 blue buttons. And I also have brads, but I'm just going to sew buttons on. So I have just a needle with some thread on it. And I'm just going to sew it down real quick. And then I'll be able to pretty easily glue this onto a page or the cover of a journal. Because it's tissue paper, they are a little delicate, so you could back it onto a piece of cardstock if you wanted. So I'm just sewing a few times through, and then I'm going to snip it. Supposedly, I'm going to try to snip it. Okay, I'm going to snip it, and then I'm just going to tie a knot in these 2 strings back here because I'm not worried. It's not like clothing, so I don't have to sew it down super like securely. So I'm just going to tie a nice little double knot here in the string. You can use any kind of string or anything. So now I have these little button flowers. And then for this one, I'm going to do something just a little different. In my kit, I have these cutie little flowers. And so I'm going to add that there just to show that you can add some other pieces as well and still have it look awesome. I'm gonna have to poke through to find the back. It's a little harder with the thicker piece in there. Make sure I leave enough tail that I can tie a knot and make these cute little flowers. Now you could do this one, this idea, you could do this with any of your scraps, and it wouldn't even have to be paper. You could do it with lace and fabric scraps too. And with a whole mix of different kinds of scraps. And that would be pretty fun, in my opinion. I've done that before. Made little flowers out of just all my scraps and just layered them. And they're cute. They come out really cute. And then you can just glue them onto the page. And you'll have like a page decoration ready to go. Or you could put them on the edge of a pocket or something. It's a really versatile little embellishment to have on hand if you want a little bit of extra decoration on a page. So I have these, and again, you can ruffle them up like this a little bit if you wanted them to be a little more 3D. Just kind of tuck them into your hand and give them a little squeeze, and then you have a little bit more of a 3D flower. So there's my 3 flowers. That is our idea number 4. Idea number 5 is to use the pattern paper to give like an antiquing effect to something that is newer. So here I've done it with this playing card, and I have another playing card in my kit, but I'm also thinking instead of doing it on a playing card that I might do it on one of my wallpaper pieces. Like this one has a lot of white, so I think I'm gonna do it for the example. So here I've just glued it down onto the card, and it makes it look antique, and you could still write on it because I haven't done anything on top of the paper. So I'll show you exactly how I did that now with the wallpaper. So first I just need a piece, and for this one, I chose one with a lot of writing, and I think I want to do that again, especially since there's already some patterning happening on the, like, it's not like I would have been able to write on this side of the wallpaper in the first place. And the back is also white, so I think that we're just going to do this on both sides. I'm just going to tear it. So all I did to do this antique effect was spread glue and glue. That's it. It's really simple. I take my wallpaper, and I have my permanent glue stick here. I use this glue stick for everything. It's my favorite glue stick, and everybody has an opinion on glue sticks. But honestly, just find one you like. That's my advice. Okay, so I have this. I have my glue on it. And I'm just going to glue this down. That's it. Just spread the glue down. And now it's not white anymore. And then on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess. This is probably one of the easiest and coolest ways to tone down your white pages. I know I just watched Raven Vintage video. She did her video this week. She was doing a lot of different things in her video, and one of the things she showed was that she had backed all of her white pages. She had done this to all the like white pages in her journal. So that was really cool. And she took down a lot of the white surfaces in her journal. But because it's not like Mod Podged or sealed on top, you can still write on it. So she didn't take away the writing space. She just made it look antique. So now I have this little antique piece, and what I'll probably do is turn this into a tag and pop it in one of my journals. It doesn't look very taggy, but I can add a topper to it and make it a little bit more taggy later. And then this I can also use as a tag in a journal. If I just put a topper on it, it'll fit nicely in a pocket. So that's the antiquing idea, and that's number 5. And we're going to move on to number, I don't know. 6 is just your basic master board that you can make tags, bookmarks, pockets, tucks, you know, all the things that you make with a master board, but just to use this all over a paper and make a master board. So this was one book page that I did because I just did a smaller master board. So this was a book page that I just covered in this, and I will show you that. So I have, it also doubles to do a little bit of the antiquing effect, which is really cool. So I have this book page here, and I am just going to use, I don't really have a wet glue on hand. I ran out and have to get more wet glue. So I'm just going to use some pieces and glue them down onto my page. I will do that. So I'm just going to put glue on the top half of this page. I have this old magazine that I'm using. It's actually not very old. It's a newer magazine that I'm using as my glue book. I use a lot of book pages for a lot of things, so I don't tend to use like normal paper book pages as a glue book. I know a lot of people have like excessive book pages, but I have a lot of ways to use mine, so I don't tend to use book pages. I prefer to use like newer magazines. I have a lot of family that gives me magazines at this point, so I just take those and use those. Alright, so I glued half the page, and now I'm going to glue the other half the page. I think it just makes it more manageable. Sometimes if I'm using magazine pages and I like the general idea of the text on them, I'll even go through, like when I'm done getting it all gluey, and I'll use that as a master board. So I could even go through and master board on this one. Okay, so for this one, I think I'm only gonna do, no, I'm not. I'm gonna do both sides. Because what I'm gonna do is show you sort of what happens when you piece it and put multiple pieces down at the same time, or like on top of each other, and stack them. So on this one I had one big piece, and that's fine, but that's more of the antiquing and not so much of the masterboard side of things. So here I'm going to just glue my top part of my page and get some different pieces and show you what the layers look like and how it can kind of become a masterboard. So put that down. And then I have like some larger little pieces that I can just piece on that have like the cool words. And so for those, I'm gonna glue directly onto the paper, onto the this paper. All right, and so then I'll just start patching on pieces until I have the whole thing covered. This one. And you'll see we'll start to get layers with various levels of like the brown color, because as you stack them, they like get darker in the places where there's overlap. So that's really fun. I don't want to use these little pieces because it's annoying, but I could use this piece, glue that down. Is that gonna, I might do this. I don't want too big of a piece because it can be hard to handle these pattern pieces. Once they're covered in glue, they act like, you know, cling wrap, like clings to itself. As I'm trying to glue these down and I cover them in glue, they tend to start getting really sticky to themselves and everything else. So I guess I could put that, yeah, I'll put it right here on the edge. And we're getting some nice overlapping pieces here. I like that that says simplicity on it. That's fun. So I'll put that down at the bottom. If you have bought this kit, the So Lovely kit, and you are following along, let me know how your journal is going. What are you making? Are you making a journal, multiple journals? Are you hoarding it because it's really pretty kit? Yeah, just kind of want to know if you're using it. What are you using it for? Are you watching the other creators do this challenge? And do you have a preferred, like, there's 6 of us making different journals, and I won't be offended if your answer is not me, but do you have somebody you're watching whose journal is your favorite out of what everyone is doing? And I know like some people are doing them in pieces where it's like really hard to kind of visualize what the end result might be. But yeah, just like right now, who are you most looking forward to seeing the result of their journal? All right, I'm going to trim this down. I know for me, I'm really enjoying watching, I guess, everybody. But I just finished watching the latest video from Raven Vintage, and that cover is turning out really pretty. That was really cool to see, and I know I'm really excited to see the final result when Bex is done from Black Whisper Crafts, because she's doing some really cool stuff. And she's making more than one journal, so it's kind of hard to see what hers might end up looking like at the end. Like right now, it's hard for me to visualize that. Okay, so then I have this. It's now a master board. I'm going to call it a master board. Call it whatever you want. But I'm just going to cut it down into some tags. But you can see where the pieces overlap. It looks really pretty. There's variation in the coloring. And now I have 4 tags that I can use in my journals. And I'm going to give them the edging snips. I don't know what to call that. Then I'm just going to flip one over. Probably should have made sure all those were right side up, but whatever, it's good enough. If it isn't right side up, it's a little late at this point. And then just use the edges of some to trim the other ones. Okay, so now I have these 4 tags. And if you had a darker pen, you could totally write on the edges of these, like, or on top of these a lot more easily than you could have on just a normal book page. So that is idea number 6 for masterboard. You can make tags, pockets, tuck spots, like anything you could make out of a masterboard. And a masterboard is just a big piece that you cut down into smaller pieces. So that was idea number 6. And then number 7 is really, really simple and really fun. And that is just stamping on the paper. Okay, so you can stamp directly onto your paper, especially if it's got a clearer spot. Now, don't judge my stamping situation, but I'm using this little plastic box as a stamp, like instead of an acrylic block, because it's what I have. And there you go. So you can stamp directly onto the tissue paper. And then you can glue that down onto something and it pushes back the busy paper and kind of pulls forward the stamp. So if I stamped directly onto this paper, you would have a really hard time seeing it. But because I stamped on here, now you can glue this paper, and you can even like give it like a fun ruffled edge. You can glue this down onto here, and then you have it pushed back. Now you could also like cut out the stamp a lot more closely than I did on that one. And then it'll highlight the stamp without pushing back the whole image. So I'll show you what that will look like. Now I saw somebody, I don't remember who, because it was like a year ago that I saw this. I saw somebody who did this with their journals, and they always stamped onto white because that didn't show, and then they were able to get like a perfect stamp image. And let me just trim this down and then finish my thought. So they stamped onto white tissue paper so that when they glued it down, you couldn't see anything. But here I have this. I'm going to turn it into a little tag, I think. I'm going to not trim it yet because I might end up using this as a pocket or a tuck, so I don't want to cut the edges yet. But here you see it pushes the image back, or it pushes the scrapbook paper back so you can still see the stamped image. And you could do this on top of like a really busy collage or anything, and if you wanted to put a stamped image, you could use this. And if you use white tissue paper, it disappears. And that way, what I'm saying is the person I was watching who gave me this idea, she was stamping onto white tissue paper because you could see it took me a few attempts to get a clean stamp. And then you're able to just cut out the one that you like. Like if you stamped this directly onto a piece of paper in your journal, you'd be like, oh man, I messed up. And then you'd have to try and fix it somehow or cover it up. But if you stamp onto white tissue paper, and then you can glue the stamp down. So if you're really bad at stamping, or you're using like a plastic box instead of a stamp pad and it messes up a bunch of times, that's an option. But for this, I just did it to use the brown to push back the busy scrapbook paper so you can see the stamp on the scrapbook paper. And you could do that on busy pages as well. So that's 7, stamping. And then number 8. 8 is really fun. If I can find it. And it's not this journal, it's this journal. I got too many journals going on here. I'm not going to do an example, or I'm not going to show it, because my idea is just to use a piece of pattern paper as an element for collaging. So this is all glued down, and I used book page, and I used a piece of the pattern paper. It doesn't add too much bulk to your page, unlike if you try to use scrapbook paper or something for your collage. And then I just added some little elements and a little stamp down here. So you can just use a big piece or a small piece as a collage element in making collages. And I really like finding the pieces that have a lot of wording on them and using them as a collage element. And I'll probably add more to this. In fact, I think I'm gonna put a pocket at the bottom here. But that's the whole example. I'm not gonna do a collage on camera right now because I overthink my collages and I can't really do them while talking. So that's number 8, just using a piece as a part of a collage. And I like that. I think it's really pretty. It's a different kind of unique idea. Number 9, here we are. Number 9 is to make tabs. So for here on this page, I have a tab. And that's it. And I'll make another one to show you what I did. First thing I did is I took this coupon, but you could also take a piece of book page. So we'll do that this time. I have a piece of book page, and I don't want my tab to be too wide. I think the other one was pretty wide, so I'm going to tear this book page, and I think just fold it over so that it's thick, because it is a thinner book page. And I'm just going to glue this to itself. I don't really have to, but I kind of want to. It helps me think to have things not falling apart while I'm on camera. But you could just fold everything and then staple it all together. So now I have this tab, and I'm just going to find a piece with a little bit of writing. And maybe I'll use this piece that says Simplicity on it, because that's pretty cool to just do this and tear that off at the edge there. All right, and then I'm just going to run a small bit of glue on my pattern paper and put that there. And again, you don't have to like do a bunch of layers. I want to do a bunch of layers for the tabs. I think I want a strip of this as well. Just to see if that's probably too much. Okay, I'm just going to do this, fold it down, and then I'm going to grab my journal and see I have this tab here has the ticket and says Simplicity, and it was longer, like it was a pretty long tab, so I just tucked it further back in the page. Then I'm just going to go and find another page on a different part of the journal, and this tab is at the top, and you can't see that. Okay, this tab is at the top part of the page, so I'm just going to put this one in the middle. And I'm just going to line it up where I want it. And I'm not worried about stapling it too much, mostly because I know that both of these pages where I put the tab, I'm going to be doing some sewing. And the reason I know that is because this here is a pocket page, which I have to sew, and this here has a pocket, which I have to sew. So I'm not overthinking it, but if I wasn't gonna sew, I would probably put a staple at the top and at the bottom just to hold this on so it didn't get caught. So there you have it, a little tab. And here is here's our journal now. You have, I mean, it's not like there's clips everywhere and everything, but here's like 2 little tabs, and I'll probably add a third one down here at some point. In fact, while I'm here, I might as well just do it. And I think what I'll do is grab this piece here. Oh wait, that's actually going to be a belly band, so I actually definitely don't want to do that. Oops. I'll add it to this one. And I'm just going to, I know I'm getting like off topic. And let me see, am I going to sew that page at all? Probably not. So I'll give it an extra couple of staples to hold it on. There we go. Okay, so now we have, just to show you how it's going to look, I have 3 different tabs here. I have a couple of Simplicity tabs, and then I have a fabric ruffle tab. So that was number 9, tabs, and then number 10 is scrappy clusters. Let me find, if I can, my example. Here it is. Okay, so number 10 is just scrappy clusters, and you can see I have all these scraps now. So I made this cluster earlier, and I just put 1 staple in it because I can always add more glue to it when I glue it to a page. Now I'll show you what it would look like on a page. Like if I just put it on the front page of this journal, I would probably put it like that. And you could even stick it out so it was a bit of a tab, or you could just put it in the middle. You could put it on, I could add it to my collage here. You could put it on a plain page, you could staple it down or glue it down. Like this one's an envelope, so I would glue it down and it would just look like a cute little decoration. You could even add it, like I know this journal, I need to add something to the cover. So I could even just add this to the cover, which like I don't like that. I don't like the way it matches, but I could add a different cluster to the cover there. So you could, I could put it here in the middle or whatever. This, trying not to drop all my projects. This one doesn't have a front decoration of any kind or a journal topper. So again, this could be on the journal topper. So all I did was, this one's really easy. I took a bigger scrap of fabric and a smaller scrap of fabric. And I'm going to do 2 scraps from the brown piece. So I have a scrap of brown. I'm actually thinking I'll do something slightly different for this one. Okay, so I'm going to use this piece with the stamping because I didn't like the way the stamping turned out. So here's this one, this piece, and we can make this cluster bigger. So I'll do that. Then I'll add this on top of it. And then I'll dig around in my basket here and see kind of what I have to work with. And I really liked the puzzle piece on top. So I think I might take one of these and layer it. And now we have this, and then put the puzzle piece in the middle. And then I just grabbed my stapler and I stapled it. That was it. So now I have that cluster. And let's just make a couple more. I have some more scrap fabric. I have even some of the fleece scraps. And I have this bow. And we'll go from there and see what we can do. So let's make a couple of clusters. You could also like tear up your paper so you have more stuff going on with your edges. And then I could grab these pieces and maybe this little piece and just do that one. There's another cluster. Let's see, are those on screen? So I have here just a few clusters. It's a fun way to use up the puzzle pieces. It's a fun way to mess around with scraps. I've got some spools here from the fleece. I've got this cool selvage edge here. So maybe we'll try to see what we can do with that. And I have some scrapbook paper scraps here as well. And I have like a book page scrap here just to kind of, if I wanted to add some durability. So we're going to make a few clusters. I'll rip this one up. Put it on that. Maybe do just this one here. And I like that these are all ruffly and coming apart, and I love the way it looks, and I love all the dimension that this adds. All right, so I'm just gonna staple directly in the center, and if it needs more glue to hold it down, I can put that on when I attach it to the page. Okay, for this one, I think I'm gonna take just a bunch of these strips and kind of make something that sort of resembles a bow in the back of this cluster. So do this, and then add this piece in the middle. And then I don't want to cover, oh, I actually like that. I don't know why I like it, but I like it. Okay, I like that one. And then for this one, I have a couple of pieces with some more writing on them. And then I actually have some like ribbons and stuff. So I could do a little ribbon curl. Like that. If I wanted, which I do want, so I will. Because I'm in charge. So the paper in the back, the little scrap paper in the back, is mostly just to reinforce it and give me something to easily glue down. So I have kind of all these clusters going, and I like these clusters. They're a lot of fun. So here's just a bunch of clusters I have, and I can grab these scraps and I can just fold them up nicely or not nicely, and I can add a piece of paper to the back and a little piece of fabric to the front. And I have all these cool strings coming off that I can just sort of bunch up underneath. And I have this. And then I just, like for this one, I might do 2 staples. And there's that. Just some really fun clusters. And you can add pieces to them or not when you go to add them to wherever you're going to have them at the end. So you could, like, even with this, I see that I have 2 of the little buttons here. So I'm going to make 2 more clusters. And this is my last idea, so I don't mind spending a little extra time on it. I am running out of time and we'll have to go soon. But I have a couple of minutes to work. Alright, so I'm going to put one there and one there. And again, I have all these little pieces that are scraps now. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to gather all these scrap pieces here and just keep layering them. Some of these are probably trash, but it's okay. And then I'm going to put this here. And then I'm just going to staple twice to hold everything together. And there's clusters. And those are really fun. They're really easy. They use up scraps pretty quickly if you kind of get carried away like I did. And those are my 10 ideas. So I have journal pages. Hopefully that didn't... Sorry, I had an alarm, so I do have to go now, but I'll wrap up this video. So I have clusters is number 10. Tabs, number 9. A collage element. To find it, I have to find it. A collage element, number 8. Number 7 was stamping, so that it was translucent or pushed back the busy scrap paper. 6 is a masterboard. So we have masterboard here with all these pieces. Oh, that's the other one. These pieces that you can make, tags, anything you can make with a masterboard. Then you have antiquing, which pushes back the white and makes it look antique. And if you ink that, it looks even better. Flowers, little flower embellishments you can make. Butterflies is number 3. Ruffles is number 2. cute little page ruffles. And then the final, or the first idea, number 1, was just a full-size page in a journal. So those are my 10 ideas that you can do with the sewing pattern paper. And this is like a bonus video to go with the Kit Create collab that I've been working on. If you want more details on that, I'll have the link to the playlist in the description, and you can check out the other videos in the playlist. Thank you all for watching. Please leave comments, like my videos, subscribe. It helps me grow. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.